Hey guys, it's Danielle from Got Room for More. Today I'm going to give away a family secret and I'm going to show you how to make my family's meatballs. So I'm an Italian American. Meatballs are kind of a standard dish in our cuisine, but I have to say my family makes them unbelievable. Nobody can beat these meatballs, and I'm going to show you the trick because most people do not do what my family does, and this is what makes ours special, and it has to do with the bread. Many people use breadcrumbs in their meatballs, but we don't. We actually soak actual Italian bread in water, and I'll show you what we do. So first things first, I'm going to use 3 different kinds of meat. My grandma actually traditionally only used beef, and you can just use ground beef if you'd like, but my mom, her twist is that she uses ground pork, ground veal, and ground beef, and that just gives it extra flavor and some color, some texture. It's amazing. I definitely suggest using all 3. If you just go to your butcher department, sometimes they have it already packaged like this, or other times you can just go to the butcher like I did tonight. They actually didn't have packaged, so I went up to the butcher and I asked him if they could make this for me, and he made it within 10 minutes. So usually this is really doable and very easy to find. So I'm just going to take all 3 meats, and this is 1.5 pounds of meat. So I got 1/2 pound of each. And if you don't eat pork, no problem. Just use the beef and veal, or just use beef. Like I said, the texture will still be excellent. It's really a flavor thing. So now I have all the 3 different meats in a bowl. Now I'm going to put some chopped up garlic. Now my mom actually doesn't put garlic, but I feel like garlic adds a lot of flavor, and I don't put a lot, just about 1.5 medium-sized cloves of garlic minced up pretty finely. And then I'm going to put just some salt and pepper. Pretty good amount because we have a decent amount of meat here. All right, some grated Parmesan cheese. I'm using Parmigiano Reggiano, and it's nicely finely grated here. So I'm going to use a good amount, probably about 1/2 of a cup here. But it's kind of, you got to do it by eye as well. So you'll see, you want a good amount of cheese, but you want to make sure that there's a good ratio of meat to cheese, not more cheese than meat, although I love cheese. All right, and then I'm going to put just a pinch of oregano, tiny bit, because it's a very strong spice. You don't want too much. And then some fresh parsley. I have here about 2 big tablespoons, maybe even 3, fresh flat leaf Italian parsley, chopped finely as well. And then some egg. So this is 3 beaten eggs, large eggs that I've beaten up. That's another key element in good meatballs. You want them to be soft. I hate when I get meatballs and they're hard as a rock and they're tough. It just, oh no. You need them to have soft, almost where you're cooking them and they're almost falling apart. That's how soft you want it. So I use 3 beaten eggs. And then the final component is the bread. So here I have a nice loaf of Italian bread that was fresh today. You can use it if it's a couple days old. It might even be better. And I opened it up, and this is an airy loaf. You see all these nice airy sections in the bread. That's great. You want that. You don't want something that's too doughy. So this is perfect. This is the Puglisi bread. I got it from the regular grocery store bakery section. Most grocery stores have this, but you can use any standard Italian bread. You're not going to use the crust. You're going to use the inside. So I have another bowl over here and some water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the inside of the bread and I'm breaking it up into pieces. Now for 1.5 pounds of meat, I'm going to use about half the loaf of bread. So just break it up into small pieces. And like I said, this is going to absorb some water. I'm going to soak it in water just a minute, a couple seconds, just until the water's absorbed. And then I'm going to mix that into my meat mixture. And instead of dry breadcrumbs, which are just going to make your meatballs hard and brittle and, little golf balls, this will make it really tender, really soft and delicious. All right, so I'm scooping out my bread. I'm almost done. Great. Break it up into little pieces. The other key thing to making good meatballs is making them a good size. Instead of giving everybody 5 little meatballs, give them 1 or 2 really big meatballs. Not only does it just look really good and appetizing, it makes the texture that much better, softer, much softer texture. Because think about it, the smaller the meatball, then when you brown them in the pan, they're going to cook faster, and then you're going to put them in the sauce, and they're going to cook again, and it's going to dry it out completely. So don't be afraid to make them kind of big. As my chef at school says, bigger is better. He's French. I'm classically French trained, but my roots are Italian cooking, and you can see I'm very passionate about it, especially my family recipes. I'm very lucky to be a part of a family that is really, talented in the kitchen. All right, so now I'm just going to pour some water. Not too much, just so it soaks up the water. I'm going to actually drain some of this out here. So once you have these soggy breadcrumbs, that's perfect. So not too much water, but you'll see once it's nice and absorbed with water. And put that right into your meatball mixture. And now I'm going to stand up here. It's hard to film yourself. And then you're going to mix it with your hands. I know I have a wooden spoon here, but this wooden spoon couldn't be bigger. I think it's a little ridiculous for this. So I'm just going to mix it. All right. Mix by hand. Get in there and just make sure it's one homogeneous mixture. Great. And then what we're going to do is you just have to, I can't show you this because it's hard for me to do it filming myself, but you're just going to heat up some vegetable oil or canola oil in a pan, like a, pan that's about this high, or a skillet, whatever you have. But you want a decent amount of oil, about an inch of oil. And you're going to heat that up till it gets really hot. And then you're going to form the meatballs, and you're going to put them in the oil and brown them on each side. But don't flip them over until one side is really nicely golden brown and crusty, or else it'll fall apart. So you want to make sure that they really cook till it's brown about halfway up. Then turn them and get them nice and even on all sides. If they're not perfectly round, who cares? You're going to break them up and eat them anyway. These are good alone. These are good on pasta, whatever you like. Of course, we always ate it with pasta, but then the leftovers, you better believe we had a sandwich for the next day for lunch. Or at least I'd hope I would. All right, perfect. That's done. So now I'll show you about how big that I do this. I do about 2.5 inches in diameter. Now this is very soft. You'll see this mixture is pretty soft. That's good. You want that. Perfect. And like I said, heat up the oil, pretty high heat, medium-high heat. Get it nice and hot. Sear it on all sides. You just want it brown all the way. Don't worry about cooking it through to the center because it'll cook in the sauce. If you don't want to have sauce on it, just sear them all the way around and eat them. But traditionally, you eat this in tomato sauce. So take your favorite tomato sauce, brown the meatballs in a pan in oil, then finish cooking them in your sauce. And while your sauce is simmering for that hour or a couple hours, just leave the meatballs in there. They'll cook. They'll get even more tender, full of that sauce and that wonderful flavor. And then you're done, and that's it. So that's my secret family recipe for meatballs. Enjoy. I'd love to see your feedback. Leave comments. And thank you very much.